Good summer, staying out of this crazy heat, all that kind of fun stuff. Um, Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you guys are. I think it's always cool that we can do these and do these virtually and have everyone from around the world join us. Today, we're excited to have Matt from the Expression Engine team. Um, Matt has done a lot of work on the add-on process and all that. He was kind of the master behind a lot of the add-on CLI work that we have now, and the ease of really building add-ons. I know that was one thing that I had the awesome privilege to work on right before we left, was kind of documenting some of that of just how easy it is to develop add-ons for Expression Engine these days. Really takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. Really helps clean up, writing documentation and other things for it. So, really excited about today. As always, just some housekeeping items. First of all, I want to thank the EE conference team. So if you see these people, as always, tell them thank you, give them love. We're excited to be having our fall summit coming up in October. So that's what this team is hard at work on right now, is getting all those final details together for Orlando. Again, this is volunteer. All of us are volunteers with this. We just have these events and throughout the year for the community. And a lot of us have been part of the community for a long time. Some of these guys have been on part of the community longer than I have. And I know some of them, I think we're even at the first what was it, EECI, the original conference a long time ago. So we just do this because we enjoy the community. We enjoy you guys. And when we want to kind of give back. So definitely give these people some love. Want to thank our awesome sponsors, our gold sponsors, Hop Studios, silver sponsor, Triple Nerd Score, our bronze sponsors, Greenline Creative, Creative Art, Jub, Prime Incorporated, Conflux, Buzzing Pixel, Noble, and Bold Minded. Lots of names that you see around the Expression Engine community, all supporting the conference and all these events throughout the year. There's still time if you want to become a sponsor for the second half of the year. We'll have kind of half year pricing for sponsorships. So if you're interested in becoming a sponsor, especially before the fall summit, just let us know and we'll be happy to send you that information. And that work really helps allow us to do some really awesome stuff in our in-person meetups, and then continue to have these events throughout the year as well. Friends of EE, Methra62 over there with Eric, appreciate all he does. Support EE Conference. Like I said, you can become a sponsor. That's a great way to get your name out there, get your business out there, show your support and love for the community. Another thing you can always do is just donate to the conference and help what we do here as well. And again, we have these events throughout the year, so there's lots that we have to pay for the platform and for everything else, the spring meetup or the spring conference, all those kind of things. So I appreciate anything you can do there. And then we appreciate everybody who participated in the survey for the fall summit. And we're excited that we're going to continue with that this year. And we're excited to see everybody. Lots of great conversation happen there. And we appreciate everybody that participated in the conversation in Slack and elsewhere, and just participated in the survey as well. Really love this community. Really love all you guys, and appreciate everybody willing to be honest with each other and open with each other. So for this year, though, there are early bird tickets still available. You can go to Tito, to the EE Conference 2023 page, or go to eeconf.com and then click on the Fall Summit there to get all the information. Hopefully, we'll be releasing speakers here in the next few weeks. But looking forward to that time down there in Orlando. All right, so I don't think Matt needs much introduction. Most of you guys know him through all his work that he's done on the core since Packet Tide took over EE, and for years before that, even as behind EE Harbor with Tom and the team there. So I don't think anything more can be said about him. Matt, where are you at right now? Are you still traveling, or where are you at?
Yeah, so I'm out actually just north of LA, in the mountains here. It's
very cool.
Really hot here. So in the mountains, it's like 20 degrees cooler. So, which still isn't great, but
yeah. If you don't know Matt,
Amy's
Matt and
very
his wife, they travel the U.S. A lot, so can't really say where he's at any one particular moment. But that's awesome. So Matt, good to see you again. It's been a while, but
yeah.
excited to have you here today. Thank you for your time, and I'm gonna hop off, but I'll be listening. If you have any issue or need any help, just call out, and I'll hop back on for you.
Sounds good. Let's see. All right. I'm just pulling up my screen. Um, all right, cool. Can everyone see this? Cool. So, yeah, so I'm talking about how to build an expression engine add-on the easy way. And let's hide that little thing. Cool. So today I'm going to be building a emoji reaction add-on, and the whole purpose of this talk is just to show like the new add-on building tools in the CLI, the whole layout and all that, and kind of just go through like how powerful the new system is and how quickly you can get up and running with building add-ons. Right. So the emoji reaction add-on is going to allow users to react to channel entries with an emoji via an AJAX to an action. It's going to display the emoji reactions with template tags, and it's going to provide an admin interface for the control panel, which will be both in the MCP and also in a widget. And then it's going to also have an at-a-glance view for a ProLit. So it's going to move kind of quickly, but I think this should demonstrate how powerful the add-on CLI commands are and how quickly you can get up and running. Okay, so anytime you want to learn about a command, you can, well, to list out the commands you want to see, you can just run the list command. And then from there, you can run EE CLI command name -- help, and it'll give you a whole layout of that. So let's just kind of do that really quick so we're all on the same page. So this is my basic blog. If I go into system EE, let's do PHP EE CLI list. So here's going to show us all of our available commands. And for example, we're going to make an add-on. So let's find make add-on, and we'll do PHP EE CLI make add-on, and that add in -- help to the end, and it'll give us all the possible values that we can use, all the options. And so every command can be run without interaction if you just pass all the flags that it needs. But we're going to be doing a lot of interaction today. Rather than just pasting in these long commands, I'll be able to fill out a few of them. And also, for the sake of time, I'm going to be filling in some of the code from the add-on like pre-made, but I think that it's going to be intuitive enough. It's just kind of like looping through sections and some JavaScript and things like that. So yeah, let's see. Yeah, let's get started. So first we're going to make the add-on, and this is the emoji reactions add-on. So I'm going to run make add-on, and well, let's just run it like this. Name of the add-on, emoji reactions, and description will be allow users to react to channel entries. Version's fine. Put in my name, and then basic blog.test. Okay, so now let's take a look at the add-on it just created. So first thing you'll notice is that we've got a UPD, and it's pretty, it looks bare bones. We've got a module file. Here's an icon, add-on setup, and then our language. And I'm going to actually go into the language file and change this module name just so that it looks a little nicer in the control panel. All right, so now we got our language file all set. And I also have an icon that I have ready. And we're not going to go into building an icon, but it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so with that squared away, I should be able to go into my blog and go to add-ons. And here's my new add-on. And if I just click install, we can see we've got no problems. We got the little smiley face sunglasses guy. And also, it's always a good sanity check just to see that it uninstalls properly. So I like to do that. Make sure your up and down methods are good. Okay, so another thing I do want to talk about is this update file. If you are extending this installer class right here, then the parent install method and the parent update and parent uninstall are all very powerful methods. Parent install is basically going to take care of everything from migrations to installing the module. It really does everything that you need it to do. And until you add a model or something like that, this is a really good place to start. It'll also install actions or extensions, things that are set up properly. It'll just do that for you. So this is pretty bare bones, but it's kind of got a lot packed into it, and it's most of what you need to get up and running. So speaking of models, the next thing that this add-on is going to need is a place to store its emojis and a place to store its reactions. And so I've kind of chosen a layout. Let's see. So let's do EE CLI. And then we've got this command here, which is make model. We'll pass it the model name, and we'll pass it the add-on. And if I didn't put all that in, it would have just generated those. It would have asked me what I want it to be. But I've got two here that I'm going to make. And so I'm going to go ahead and just do both of them right now. Okay. So let's go back to the code and take a look at what we've got now. And all right, so now we've got this model folder. Wasn't there before. And we've got this emoji model and this emoji reaction model. And you'll notice that it's got a link to the docs on how to build your own model. And it also has this comment with how to use the model. And this, you can delete this, but it's just a handy method here that you can copy and paste. And from here, you would add like a filter or something like that to get it. Or if you want to make one, you would do make and pass it something. So this is the syntax for interacting with our model. So the first thing we're going to do is let's set our primary key. And these are all, every time you generate something with the CLI, it's going to give you some defaults that kind of are instructive and also are a good like starting point. So we're going to need this primary key, and ours is going to be emoji ID. And our table name is just going to be emoji. And a lot of people are going to prefix their tables with something or say that it'll be like your add-on name, or just, I would say just stick to a syntax. And once you have that down, just keep using the same syntax. And then we've got our properties here. And so this model would have a property of first name and a property of last name. And we don't want any of that. But we do want emoji ID. And we also want a name of our emoji. And we also want to represent it in Unicode. So we can just print it out in the HTML. And so that's what that's going to look like. And actually, these are examples of getters. And so that would be like if you said get name, it would return the first name space the last name. It's a pretty common thing that people will do, but in this case, we just don't need these. So we're just going to take them out. And then the last thing that we want to do here is, actually, I will get to that next. I was going to say we're going to make some relationships, but the relationship is with this model. And so for this model, let's build it out first. And I'm going to copy in some of this stuff that I just ran through, and we'll save some time that way. So here's how it looks to interact with the model. I'll leave that there because it's handy. And then here's our primary key, and here is our table, as well as all of the properties, which this is basically a big pivot table. We've got our ID, and then we've got our emoji ID, our entry ID, and the member ID. So basically it's saying this member ID reacted with this emoji on this entry. And it has this created column, which is going to be just a timestamp. So for the created column, we're going to have an event, a on before insert event. And so the way you define that is just like this. You're going to basically define this array called underscore events and add before insert. And so you can, there's all sorts of events. You can check the docs on what events are available, but that's going to be a way for you to just like set things right as they happen, basically. So now we need to define this, and that actually is close to what I want. Actually, no, we'll do set property. So we're going to set the property created to now. So basically every time you insert a row, it's going to give you a timestamp. That should be a pretty familiar pattern. And then the other thing I want to do is add our typed columns. And this is a quick example, so I'm not going to list all the typed columns, but you really would probably put all of these as integers. And really, I'm using this one right now, and that's why I'm adding it. But there are better practices for a few things that I'm going to do. But this is really just to get us a simple code base that works. And now, like I said before, we're going to generate our relationships. And this one has a few. It has a relationship to the emoji model. It has a relationship to the channel entries and also to a member. And so the way you do that is define this array called relationships. And then you're going to use your keys to generate the array. So we've got emoji, which is that way you can do something like if you have a relationship, or sorry, a reaction, you can do this and then start getting properties like name. And that's how all these are going to work. So then you can do channel entry, title, that sort of thing. And so that's what makes this so powerful is just models in general. So these are our three relationships. And now I'm going to go back to the emoji model because we've got a relationship there to define as well. And that's going to be a relationship back to our emoji reactions. So this one is a has many because one emoji might have many reactions that are associated with it. I hope that made a lot of sense. It's pretty fast and easy to generate a model, but you do have to fill it in with your structure, your database structure. So let's see. So we have our models, but currently when we install our add-on, it's not going to generate these tables. So how do we do that? Well, the best way to do that is to generate a migration for the tables. And so what I'm going to do is, and I actually have this shortcut that I'm going to start using here, but all these commands are just PHP EE CLI, but my shortcut is EE. And so I have this tab autocomplete, and this kind of makes things a little faster for me in development. So we're going to make a migration, and I will pass it some flags. So we've got -- name, which is create emoji table. This flag is a Boolean flag. It's just saying that this is a create type migration. And based on what type of migration you're generating, it will it'll give you a different starting point. So this one knows that it's a create, and it knows that it's a table of emoji. And you can generate migrations for an add-on. So in this case, that's what the location is, the add-on name. You can also generate migrations for ExpressionEngine. So in that case, you wouldn't have an add-on name. You'd leave it as location equals ExpressionEngine. And for this one, I'm going to use, actually for this one, I will not use these flags, and you'll kind of just see what it looks like with the interactive part. So it's going to ask those things. So it sees that the name is create emoji table. And so its default is a create migration. So I'm just going to say, okay. And then what is the migration category? Is it generic or table? If it's generic, it'll give you some outputs that are different. But if you say it's a table, it's going to give you a output that is with the table, obviously. So we're going to say that. And so now what table is this? And it kind of reads this and figures out what you might want. And so the table for the migration is called emoji. So I'm just going to say, okay. The second one is going to be our emoji reactions table. And so I'm going to do this, and let's just look through this command. We've got make migration. We've got the name of it, which is create emoji reaction table. We're saying it's a create, and here's our table, and our location is add-on, our emoji reactions add-on. So I'm just going to hit enter, and it doesn't interact because we put in all the flags that it needs to know what kind of migration it is and just generate that. So let's go back to the code and see what's changed. All right, so here we've got a new folder called database and migrations. And if you open this, you can see we've got create emoji table and also a create emoji reaction table. So let's take a look at what's in this. We have two functions. We have an up and a down right here. Public function up, public function down. And so basically what this is doing is when you run a migration, it's going to run this up function. And it's going to do whatever's in there, and it's going to go in the database and mark it as this migration has been run. So it gets run once, no matter what. And then if you were to roll back that migration, it'll run this down function. So basically this is saying create a, let's see, dbforge, add the fields, create a table, and then the down function is going to drop that table. So just as is, it should create a table with emoji ID, site ID, and data. And these are here as starting points. So if you want a enum, you can uncomment this and change it to be however you want it to be. This is really just meant to make it a little bit quicker for people to develop. Just so you're not looking up syntax, you can just say like, oh yeah, I'm doing a varchar, or I'm doing a double. And that's just to make it easier. So I'm going to go ahead and build our emoji table. So we've got this emoji ID. We also need a name, and we also need the Unicode. And type is text. The name is also actually going to be a text. So I'm going to say text, and I'm going to just get rid of the rest of that. There's all sorts of options, of course. You can play with that with your own add-ons, but I'm going to just take out this comments just to make it look a little bit neater. And really, this is all I need for the migration. When I run this, it's going to take all these fields, which are the 3 fields that we need. It's going to add them, and it's going to add a key. This is our primary key, and it's going to create this table. And that's really all we need to do. If you roll it back, it should run this down function. And rolling back is something that gets run also when it's uninstalled. So basically, by having this one file in here, we don't have to change the UPD at all. The UPD is going to run this, and on uninstall, it's going to roll it back. And if you're already installed, it's also going to run this when you run update. So any migrations that get thrown in there, basically it keeps track of what has been run and what has not been run. So for our second migration, I'm going to go ahead and actually just paste it in because there's a few more fields in here. And so here we've got this create emoji reaction table, and we've got all of our IDs, and we're saying that they're all integers, these ones here. They're unsigned, and we'll give them a default of 1, which you might not want to do, but in this case, we're just going to do that. And then for our created, we're actually going to set it as an integer, and that's because I'm storing Unix timestamps rather than like a date field. But really, you can go either way. This is just how I've chosen to structure this add-on. And then for our down method, all we're doing is dropping this table. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to actually run it from here just to show that you can run your migrations in different ways. But I'm going to say EE migrate, and actually just running migrate will work. Migrate add-on will work. Just run migrate. So what location do you want to run your migrations from? We can say all. We can also say add-ons, which will do all add-ons, or we could just say this one. They'll actually all run the migration from this, but you could imagine that if you have migrations in multiple locations, you kind of want to specify it, or you just want to run them all because your system should be up to date anyway. So I'm just going to say all. And you can see that these 2 were migrated. So now if we open our database, I have this filter on here showing action and emoji, and I'm going to refresh. And now we have these tables. So that's pretty cool. And actually, if we go into migrations, you'll see that these are the 2 migrations that just ran. Here's their location, and this is the migration group. And I won't get too into that, but basically it's a way of saying that these 2 migrations ran at the same time. And so when you roll them back, you can roll back in groups. And that's a little bit past what we're talking about today, but it's good to be aware of. So here's our tables, and we've got exactly what we defined in the migration. And it's looking pretty good. So I think we can move on. Next thing that we're going to want is a template tag, because we want to be able to interact with our data. We want our blog to have these buttons where you can interact with your emojis. So this is my basic blog, and it is just a list of adventures, and they're all generated by ChatGPT, all the text in here. And it actually does a pretty good job with this. But basically what we want to do is right here, we want it to show up with a emoji reaction thing where you can just select what emoji you want to react with. You can react what someone else has done. So let's figure that out. I'm going to take a look at my notes. And then we're going to run EE make template tag. And let's see, emoji. So let's run this one. It's going to ask the add-on anyway, so I'm just passing it in the flag. And then what is the tag name? So we kind of have to think about what we want our tags to do. I want one tag that has a React button that you can click and interact with, and a second tag that will list all of the interactions. So let's start with React button. So this is just created a new tag, and I'm going to go ahead and do the second one at the same time so we can get right into the code. And the second one I said was list reactions. Cool. So let's take a look at our code. We've got a new folder now. I'm gonna minimize these. New folder now called tags. And if you look at the mod file, you'll see it's still exactly the same. Nothing's changed here. But we're gonna go into tags, and we have our two tags here, which is interesting. And the first one is React button. And this is going to show us the example tag. And basically when this tag gets called, when you put this in a template and it gets called, it's going to run this process function. And it actually works the same way if you're familiar with how it would work in a mod file, where you can use the template class and parse variables, or you can just return something for a single tag. And that's actually what we're going to do in this case. So I'm going to open up my templates and add this tag, and we'll see what it looks like. So this is the most basic site I could build. Here's just kind of a layout of what's going on. We've got a layout. We've got a channel entries loop. This is our header. And then we've got this main content where we're listing out 10 blog posts. And that's basically it. So we're not actually going to touch this file because it doesn't need to be touched. We're going to go into post, which is where our single blog post is. And you've got a channel entries loop, limit 1 with a blog. And right here, you can see I've kind of pre-filled them, but I'm going to uncomment this. And this is our emoji reactions button, React button. And so now if we go to our site and refresh, you'll see, and I'm going to take off the edit mode, you'll see exactly what I put in the tag, which is my tag. And so basically, this allows you to really separate out your code. So where one tag lives in one file. Long gone are the days of 3,000 line long mod files, because everything has its place now in a different way. And just, I do want to make a side note. This does only work in ExpressionEngine 7 right now. We are going to be rolling out support for 6 very soon. But if you need this to work on an old add-on, just keep that in mind. But we're going to move on. And basically, I have this tag, and all I'm doing is returning my tag. And you can see that that's what gets showed up. And so what I really want to do is I want to loop through the emojis that I have and build a button and basically put it on the page. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And of course, there are a lot of ways to do this and to separate code, but just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to put it all right here. And this kind of just makes it a little quicker for me, but also makes it maybe easy to understand right here. So basically I'm saying emojis equals model, and we're getting all of the emoji models. And we are going to then run this React button. Sorry, we're going to save a React button, and it's a button with a certain class. And this is how you output Unicode in HTML. And then we're going to make this unordered list and add our Unicode to it and output this part, which makes it show up as an emoji. And so that's all it does. And if I go to it now, you'll see that if I click it, nothing happens. There's no unordered list. So something's wrong here. And you might have noticed that I never put anything in that table. So that's why we're not getting anything, because you really need to seed some data in there. And so actually what we're going to do now is we're going to go to our update file. And again, there are a lot of ways of doing this, but this is how I've chosen to do it here, which is I'm going to define a function called seed emojis. And I'm going to just put in a bunch of different emojis, just a handful here, and we're going to loop through them and make them. So that's really all we're doing. And I'm going to just put it in the install function. And I'll just do this seed emojis. And this is going to not run our migrations. Seed the emoji table with default emojis. Perfect. So let's take a look at that. And in this case, I've chosen to just put it in the install function, but if you're releasing this, you put it in the update function, because someone previously has this. But let's just run this, and we're also going to see now, let's take a look at our database, and we'll see that the emoji table is gone. And that is kind of why I'm showing this process, basically demonstrating that it's running that down method on our migrations when we uninstall. So now this time when we install, it's going to run parent install. It's going to do all that stuff, run the migrations, and then it's going to run this seed emojis, which is pretty cool. Let's click install, and it's installed. Looks fine. And when we go to the database, I'm going to check out my tables. I have my tables, and when we go to exp emoji, we'll see that we have 14 emojis here. So that's pretty great. Now, when we go back to our front end, I'm going to refresh, and we'll see that there are a bunch of emojis, which is exactly what we want. Now this, of course, looks pretty bad, but this is where I messaged Yulia and said, "Hey, can you make me something that looks really good?" And she did that. So big shout outs to Yulia. But an add-on can come with themes. And so in this case, we need it to be public. So I'm going to just go into here, and it's public themes user. And this will be the folder. And I'm just going to say new file, emoji reactions.css. And then I'm also going to need some JavaScript. So I'm going to do that now. And so the reason I'm putting these here in the themes folder is that they are public. So anyone can go to your website and go /themes/user /emoji reactions /emoji reactions.css, and you're going to get this file. And that's exactly what we want. So now let's pull in our CSS. And I had to add this comment just to make sure I shouted out Yulia for helping me out with this CSS. And when I go here now, it still doesn't look good. And that is because we need to include this on our page. So let's go back to our templates. And I have a layout right here. And so we need to include the CSS, and I'm going to do it this way, where I'm saying href equals site URL, and basically we're just saying, here's a path to our CSS. And I'm sure everyone has different ways of doing this and doing a lot of these things, but this is just one way, and it's simple and it works. So now you can see all those UL items are all hidden. So if I click this, nothing happens. And that's because we need our JavaScript. So I'm going to pull up our JS file. And let's fill it in with some stuff. All right, so here's our JS file. And I'm going to kind of gloss over this right now, but we'll come back to this when we're looking at what it's doing. But all you basically need to know is that when you click that button, it's going to unhide it and it's going to show it basically in a box and let you click other things and all that. So let's check it out. Right, I need to include it on the layout, which is down here. We've got our script, themes, user, emoji reactions.js. Cool. So let's refresh the page first, of course, and click it and check it out. Now we've got our emoji reactions. And so actually, I believe, okay, not yet. Right, so when we click them, we want them to show up right here. And that brings me to the next section, which is our next template tag. So let's take a look at our other template tag. Okay, we're probably done in, no, we're not done in templates. We're going to go to our post. And here's our other template tag, which in this case, we're going to actually pass it the entry ID because we only want to list the reactions for one entry. So here we go. I'm going to save it. And now we've got our emoji reactions, list reactions for entry ID equals entry ID. And so now anything we put in that file will, let's see, our list reactions file will show up there. And it's currently at this default of my tag. And we're going to make it functional now. And so basically what we're doing is we're getting the entry ID from the parameters. We're going to get all the emojis, and then we're going to get all the reactions for this entry ID. I'm just building the HTML here, and we're going to loop through each emoji. We're going to get the count. That way we can list out how many times it's been reacted. And then we're just going to add it in our reaction block. And then I also have these hidden variables, and this is for our action that will come soon. So I'll skip over it for a minute. But let's close some of this that we don't need. All right, cool. Actually, let's close all of it. All right, so now we have this, and we're also putting it on the page. So now when I go here and refresh, we see nothing, but we should be able to click, and because of the magic of JavaScript, we have a reaction. And now you can react to all these, and there's nothing limiting me from doing it multiple times, just because there's not. And on a more production site, that's something you might want to implement, but here we're just going to ignore that. Partially because I only have one user on the site, and this just makes it easier. But each time we do this, it's going to increment these. And JavaScript is keeping track of that, but it's not in the database. So what happens when I refresh? Okay, when I refresh, that is all gone. And so what we want to do is store those reactions, say that this member, which is me, the admin member, has reacted with thumbs up to this post. Or if we go to a different post, we should see different reactions for what's been reacted. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So basically what we need is we need to AJAX that back to our backend, and we need to save it to the database. So some people might be familiar with actions, and actions are a way of allowing there to be a way to send data back to basically an endpoint for your add-on. And some people might be familiar with it in a module. Well, in the new methodology, we're actually going to put it in its own file. And so we're going to do EE make action. And what did I call it before? I just want to make sure it's all the same. Record reaction. Right, and then we pass it the add-on name and action created successfully. So now if I go to actions, you'll see that we've got this record reaction. And another thing that you'll notice when you do this is now if you go in database, you have a new migration. And this is here because this is basically a way of automatically doing all the database for actions. So basically we can kind of ignore how actions are built and just assume that this is built correctly. And so and it'd be good to understand this and to look at it, but when we do our up model or our up function, it's going to make an action with this class and this method. And down, we're going to do the same thing. And this should really just insert it into the actions table and register it as an action that we can call. So when we go to that action, we're going to hit this process function. And basically, this is going to let us do anything we want to do in here. If we want to say get a post variable called entry ID, we can get that here. So now we've got our entry ID. So basically, anything that we post here, this is where we're going to take our data and we're going to save it to the database. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and migrate. And we've already covered that, so I'm doing it fast, but I just want that actions table to be run. And then I'm also going to go ahead and give it a bit of code. And this code should be fairly simple and intuitive for a lot of people. We're getting the member ID from the session. We're getting the entry ID from post, and we're getting the Unicode, so the emoji, from post as well. We're going to pull up the emoji that is associated with that Unicode, and if there is none, we'll return false. Then we're going to create a new reaction. Basically, we're just going to say EE model make. Here's our reaction model. We're going to set all that data, and we're going to say save. And then we're going to return the count. And actually, this is something that I didn't end up implementing. So it does return the count, but everything's done in JavaScript right now. And that is for the sake of time. So we'll save this. And if we go, oops. Okay. If we go back to our site now and refresh, we should be able to select an emoji. And it still didn't work. Let's check out why. Let's go to the network tab. Okay, I did something wrong here. Oh, I actually added that character. You guys are probably yelling in chat. Okay. So now it's going to post to this act URL with this data. And when I refresh now, that's still there. It's perfect. So I go again and it's still there. So let's do a couple of reactions just to kind of simulate this. And maybe some from a non-logged in user. So let's see, go to our first one here. I'm gonna react with a heart and sunglasses, and it's a sunrise. So here's a sunrise. And then that was a good one, actually. Let's do this one. And here's a nice mountain sunset, 100. Let's react a couple times, actually. Cool. So now we've got all this data in here. And if I refresh it, we're going to see it on every page. So let's take a look at the database just so we're aware, but emoji reaction. And here's all this data that we just entered. And member ID is 0 for these. You may want to disable this in a real site, but I have it so that a guest can react. And they can react as many times as they want. And everyone's probably screaming about why that's bad. But of course, for a test site, this is fine. So now we basically have a full functionality of our action posting back, and it records reactions. And this is kind of as far as we could take it if we want to. But I'm going to go ahead and make a CP route. And basically this is just going to take it like one step further. And this is going to allow us to check our control panel to see who reacted and at what time. So let's see, make CP route. Let's just do the index route. And actually, before I run this, I'm going to go back into the control panel. And you can see that when I refresh, this cannot be clicked because it doesn't have any routes. There are settings to change to make that happen, but this is going to do it for us. So we're just going to say the route is index. And the add-on is our emoji reactions add-on. And so now I'm just going to refresh and check it out. You can click it. So this index route is the first route to be added. And so that's why I called it index. We could have called it anything, but then we would have had to come up with an index route. And that route would have been right here, like in the URL. So let's go back and look at what this looks like. You'll notice something new is this control panel folder. And we also have an MCP, but it's pretty much empty. So this is kind of happening automatically in the background, where you can now go to this index route and it's going to load this view called index. And we can actually see that we have a new view called index. And it's going to set these variables to the view and it's going to return itself. And this actually will load that view when you go to that MCP page. So let's make this functional for us. And I actually have to, I skipped a step. All right, so let's add this here. So I'm adding these functions right now, and basically it's getting some data. It's going to get all the reactions. It's going to filter by an entry ID if you add one. And it's ordering them. And it's basically just like putting them in a format that we can use in our table. And then we also have a get table function, which is going to use the EE CP table helper, set the columns. This can all be looked up in the docs, but then it's going to set our data as this get info entry ID. And so entry ID can be null. And if it's null, it's just going to return everything. So I'm going to go ahead and say this get table, view data, set the body to that same view file. And now I do need to make that view file, which simply is going to be a little bit of HTML. We're going to give it a title, and we're basically passing that table in and from the other side, and we're just going to say view make render table. And so let's see what that looks like now when we go to our page. And this is now a listing of all the emojis that reacted by what member at what time. So now we can go back in and pick a new, let's see, haven't been to this one yet. Pick this one, a nice sunset. Let's do the fire emoji. And then we can also pick ancient art, so rock climb in Utah, and respond with a climber, 2 of them, and a heart. So now let's go to our page, and when we refresh it, here's all the new ones I just did. There's the Zion ones, there's the ancient art ones, and they all have the timestamp when it happened. And it's sorted that way. And I also don't have it paginated for now. Actually, we're not going to do that today, but it's pretty simple as well. And this is great, but I'd like to have it right here because this is my dashboard. This is what I check when I log in. So how do we do that? Let's just make a widget for the add-on, and the widget will show up here. And let's basically just list the same thing. So I'm going to do make, wow, okay, I'm struggling. Make widget, and what did I call it before? Show reactions, of course. And we'll do it for this add-on. And then when we go back to our code, we're going to see we've got a new folder called widgets. It's called show reactions. And there's a title, there's content, and there's a right header button. And so let's go into the control panel. We'll refresh. And down here, we've got a new widget for emoji reactions, show reactions. Here's the title, content, and our button. When we click the button, it brings us to the add-on. So it's pretty handy. Let's go back to overview. And I'm going to just kind of simplify this. You can leave whichever one's on that you use, but I'm going to take them all out, except for this one. So now let's go into our widget and make it functional. So what code do we need here? Well, actually, we want the same code. So we could copy and paste it. We want the same code from the control panel route. We could copy and paste it, but we don't want to duplicate our code too much. And so what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to make a library service. So I'm just going to make a folder called library. And then I'm going to define a file. And there's really no perfect way to do this, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to call it manage reactions.php. And I'm going to go ahead and put the code that we had before in here. And this is the same code. It has a get info. You can pass an entry ID, and then a get table that will call that get info and fill it in with a table. So let's go back into our control panel. And we really don't need this anymore, right? Because we have it somewhere else now. But we do need to call it. And the way to do that is by calling a service, which is this. So now we're running EE emoji reactions, manage reactions, that's our service name, and get table. And in order to run this, we actually need to register it. So I'm going to go to add-on setup, and I'm just going to go into here, and let's copy a new service in. And the service is defined as manage reactions, and this is the path to it, library manage reactions. So I'm going to save it. And now if I go back to our add-on, okay, you should see that it still works exactly the same because all we did was we moved our files from here to the service. We moved our code there. But now we want to do it. We want to call the same code in the widget. And now all we have to do for that is set a data table, call our data table, and then we'll say EE view make and render that data. And we're also setting the title, so it's a little bit more intuitive. And we'll leave this header here, but name it a little differently so it's nicer. So now if we go back to our widgets, now we have all of these reactions in our widget. And so that can be really nice, especially for a client that wants something specific. You can set widgets up to show them that. So they go to their dashboard and they list the most recent entries, and it lists our reactions. It lists, whatever they want, you can put in here. And there's actually still one more thing that I'd like to add to this, and that is we've got this nice dock down here, and we can turn on our edit mode and go in, and if we want to edit this content, we can do it here. We can edit our title. We can do all that stuff, but we can't be an admin to our emoji reactions. And so that is called a prolit, and we're going to do that now. We're just going to say make prolit. and it's going to be called show reactions for that add-on. Shows the reactions. Sure. All right, so let's go back. What's changed? You'll see now we have a pro.emoji reactions file. And this is our prolet generated from the CLI. And we've got this index function, and this is actually going to be what gets returned to that prolet. So now if we refresh here, we're going to see our show reactions. If I click that, here's our prolet generated from the CLI. Perfect. And we have this save button, and that's kind of by default. A lot of prolets will save data, and we're not going to do that. We're actually going to just go in here and say protected buttons equals empty array, because I really don't want that for this. Actually, let's see. Cool. Yeah, so now we got no button, and I just wanted to show the reactions. And so let's do the same thing that we did before. And we already have this code written. So let's call our service. And I'm going to comment this out for now, but actually, no, I'll leave it in. It's basically the same thing, but the only thing different in this call is that we're passing an entry ID. And if you remember, when I pass entry ID to this, it actually will filter it based on entry ID. And so when you build a prolet on a page that has a specific entry ID, it'll pass that as a get variable, actually. So when we go back here, I can click this again, and it's actually going to pass the get variable for this page and show these specific reactions and their dates. And so now it's only for this one add-on, and I think that's pretty cool. So now we can go back, we can look at a new page, and this one doesn't have any. So let's actually respond, and then there it is. And so, yeah, that's kind of basically all I've got today, but it's kind of trying to demonstrate how a lot of these tools have been built to separate code, to allow you to organize things well, and also make it really easy to deal with. I mean, you'll notice that each one of these, the files aren't very big. We have a control panel route, and it just does our control panel route. That's all it's supposed to do. We have our actions, and it really just handles the action. No longer do we have these huge, massive files that do lots of things and are pulling things from other files. And no, ExpressionEngine is going to take care of that. And in the background, it's going to set it up in this way. And actually, this is kind of impressive. We have this fully functioning add-on, and when you go to the mod file, there's basically nothing in it. I mean, it's all handled elsewhere. And same with the MCP, it's empty. You go to the UPD file, and it's basically got your really basic stuff for installing, for updating, and for our seeding. And everything else is taken care of in the background. And so that's kind of all I've got. I didn't use these slides, but here we go.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate all that. That's really cool to see just how far add-on development has come. It's funny. I was thinking, wasn't Lowe's like add-on development tutorial from years ago about save reading posts or reacting to posts back in the day? His old EE one.
I actually don't know.
Okay. I was thinking that was just cool just to see like where we are now and thinking back to, I remember his was like the go-to add-on tutorial when I first got into ExpressionEngine. So we do have some Q&A, so we'll go through those. First of all, do you have to have an add-on to make a widget?
No, you don't. So you can actually go into the template tags. I'm a little hazy on this, but I believe you can have a widget folder or something. Basically, define a template as a widget, And you can use regular template tags and loop through them. So you can do like an EXP channel entries tag or something like that and loop through it and build your template tag that way as well. And that's actually a way that we've seen a lot of people do it, that they don't need to build an add-on to just have a widget.
Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, here it is, template widgets. I think this is the right link. If the MCP and the mod files are empty, are they still needed?
At this point, they are still needed. They are actually used in the background, and I can pull that up, but they're actually doing something, and they're there and they're extending this MCP. And this is kind of where the magic happens in the background, but they're still needed at this point, yeah. And this actually kind of is the purpose is that it allows you to bridge that gap from the older add-on style and the newer add-on style. So this actually doesn't take anything away from the old style. So I can still do like public function something, I don't know. And this is now a template tag in the mod, or sorry, this is the MCP, but you probably get what I'm saying, where this will now be a template tag. And so that kind of allows you to bridge the gap. You don't need to build
Right.
your template tags in this thing, but it's a new thing and it's a great way to separate your code out. But you can do a mixture.
Brian asked, will your code be available in a public repo? You're going to share this with everybody?
Yeah, yeah, I can push that up. I'll push that up today and post it in the ExpressionEngine Slack channel.
Yeah, we probably should take the recording from today, maybe put on ExpressionEngine University and link the code. That'd be good.
Mhm.
Then we'll ask, what if we want to add settings to allow the admin to add/allow more or less emoji?
Yeah, so I actually did want to do that, but I packed a lot of stuff in here and didn't have time for it basically. But basically, you would just make a new route called settings and create a form that you could add a new emoji, select it, and just insert it or delete or something. And so you'd have to make those forms, but it wouldn't be that hard to do. I would add a settings route, and yeah.
All right. And Blair asked, in migrations in CLI, what does the question generic/table mean? What is generic for?
Let's just build one right now. We'll just say EE make migration. New migration. And actually, I want this for the emoji reactions add-on. We'll do generic, generic table or just generic.
I think he's
Let's do.
asking what generic means versus table, like what's the differences?
Okay, so I'll just do generic. We'll look at our file, and we've got a new migration. And if it's just a general generic one, it doesn't give you that default code of like create table, because not all things you're going to want to create a table. Like say you want to add something to a table, or say you want to do something completely different in your migration, that would be done here now. So basically, it generates the same file, but it gives you more. It gives you more like tailored default code that you can use.
Perfect. Justin asked, will there be available a video of this presentation? Yes, Justin, you can always watch or rewatch all of our virtual meetups on the EE Conference YouTube channel. Yay. Doug, what is the best way to bring your legacy add-ons into this new structure?
That is a great question. We don't have commands that will just do it for you. I wish, but really the best way would be to go through and do things like moving your tags into template tags like this, stuff like that. Um, you're also going to have to probably manually extend this module, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's kind of a manual process, but you can still like say generate tag and it'll create it all for you, but then take your code from your mod and copy it into the tag. That's definitely an option.
Awesome. Can you take a hybrid approach and use the MCP and mod while using the folders, etc., generated from the CLI for the new feature additions to an add-on? So I guess can you kind of take
Yeah.
the old and the new way together?
Yeah, and I think I kind of answered this probably after it was asked, but yes, you can, and um, you can mix it as much as you want. Um, so you could create whatever tag here, or you could define your action here. It doesn't have to be defined over there, but that one will take precedence over this one. Um, so if you wanted like where's my MCP? Public function test. We'll just return test. Perfect. And then when we go to we're already there. If I go to /test, it's there. I mean, all the old stuff still works. It's just this is adding a new way of doing some of it.
Cool. All right, Doug asks, can you set up the name and description in the add-on.setup PHP file, either manually or in the CLI, to read those from the language file?
That is a great
Hmm.
question. I don't believe that's supported right now, but I do really like that. That's something that the CLI does is it copies your stuff into both. So it puts our name and our description into both. But yeah, that's actually good feedback. Something we could look into.
Cool. Um, Robin says, when are the existing native tags all switching over? Um,
Good question. No idea.
okay.
I don't know if that's even on our to-do list right now. I know we've got a very long to-do list, so probably not a big priority right now, but I would guess that a lot of add-on, like internal add-on development will be moving this way going forward, if that makes sense.
Yep. Awesome. All right, guys. Any other questions? Last time. Give you a few more minutes here. This is all great stuff. Again, we'll have this on our YouTube channel. Maybe we can move this to ExpressionEngine University as well. I think we kind of need these, again, these basic how to build add-ons, especially with all the new stuff documented out there. I think it's a big way to help grow the platform. Robin is still asking about backwards compatible. On a more serious note, how backwards compatible would these add-ons be? So if I generate an add-on with the CLI, is this going to work in version 6 or 5 or any of those? I think she's kind of
Yeah,
throwing you softballs there.
that is a good question, and it will not work in anything before 7. And I believe we started this in 7.2.
Sounds right.
Um, you could check the exact release notes, but so I think it's 7.2 and up will work with this, and we will be adding support for it in 6. So that will be 6 whatever, maybe it's 6.5 or something, and beyond.
Very cool. All right. Anything else, guys? Everyone? All right. If there's no one else, Matt, thank you again for your time. Thanks for doing this. This was an awesome presentation, and I'm sure one that's going to be referenced over and over again. Really appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, thank you. And I had a lot of fun putting it together, so I'm glad that I was able to talk about
Yes. Emojis making their way into code more
it.
and
Yep.
more now. All right. Thanks, Matt.
All right. Thanks.
All right, guys. So just wrapping up here. Gonna share my screen. But again, thanks to everyone. Thanks to Matt especially for joining us. I know, as he said, there is probably a long list of items that the team is currently working on, constantly working to improve Expression Engine. Lots of good feedback from the community always, and so I appreciate him taking time out of his day to come and do this. And not only today, but as many of you guys know who have presented or anything, it takes hours and hours to put that kind of stuff together. So really appreciate him taking the time to do that, and Tom, of course, for sharing Matt with us. Again, want to thank our awesome sponsors, our gold sponsors, Hop Studios, Travis, and that team, and all that they do for the community and have done for many years. Same thing with Doug over at Triple Nerd Score. Love you guys. Thank you guys for all you do. Our bronze sponsors, Greenlight Creative, Creative Art, Jub, Prime Incorporated, Conflicts Group, Buzzing Pixel, Noble, Bold Minded. Again, names that you know and recognize and have been around for years. And of course, Eric over at Mithra62. Appreciate you, bud. Support the EE conference. Already went through this, but you can go to our website. We're happy to accept donations. We are a not-for-profit business. We none of us that volunteer make any money from this, and every bit helps to support the conferences and all the events that we do throughout the year. Upcoming meetups. The next one will be in September. We don't have that nailed down, so if you're interested in doing or hosting or speaking, or you have something you'd like to share, feel free to jump in there and let me know, or any one of the conference team members know. We'll have our September meetup, and that'll be just a couple weeks before our fall summit there in Orlando. Definitely get in there and purchase your early bird tickets. And again, looking forward to seeing everybody in Orlando this year. I know we saw some people talking about activities they want to do, all that kind of stuff. So let us know if there's any topics that you want to hear about. We have some speakers we're already putting in there. I know Carl Smith from the Bureau of Digital. If you know him, he's a great speaker. He's going to be speaking on community. We have lots of the EE team's going to be there. We have other people that are going to be helping leading sessions, all that. Again, just like we did in Philadelphia last year, a lot more discussion based, a lot more group discussion. What are your obstacles? What are you going through? Working those things out so that everybody comes out of there more energized and knowing more and just closer together as a community. So really looking forward to that, guys. So we will see you next time in September. Talk to you guys later.